Audio. Okay. Looks like we're on. Hello, everybody who's watching after the fact. It's going to take a few. You mean connect my encoder to go live? What are you talking about? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, YouTube, for doing the job that you're supposed to automatically do. That was a nice multi-second delay on your part. I'm sure you're going to blame me for it, though. All right. So we got some stuff today. Not going to be like a super short one, but I'm going to try to keep it somewhat short because I do want to get some Path of Exile time in tonight. And we're going to try using the oceanography or bathymetric site for a little global trot around backdrop map this time, since it does not lag us out in the way that Google Earth does, or at least it has not shown to do so yet. If it does, and it ends up being that they're both basically the same, then I'll consider just switching back to Google Earth. But anyways, let's wait a few minutes for anybody to show up. Okay, they changed the. Oh no, there it is. They did still change the settings here. I don't understand the point of this. Why? Just switched everything to like, ooh, it's curved now. We don't believe in corners anymore. Now it's all curved at the corners because that makes it look futuristic or something. So while we give people some time to show up, I'll start going over some other things other than the stuff that's in the titles. So let's switch to the pink should work. So Thailand and Cambodia. For everybody who remembers, there were clashes along the border a number of months back. It was primarily centered around this one temple somewhere around here that both of them lay claim to, and that was kind of just the backdrop. They want to fight each other for other reasons, obviously, but wanting to fight over money or over control of trafficking routes of illicit substances, or wanting to fight over, networking share of a uh, unconsensual porn site website industry doesn't sell well to your public all that much. So they came up with a pseudo spiritual reason for it. The two countries' governments, I mean, and they fought for a few weeks. A couple hundred people died, and then kind of simmered out. But now looks like it's potentially starting back up as they've both been moving forces back towards the border again, and Thailand's like military command staff was giving big public speeches about how they intend to, in their words, go in to Cambodia and remove Cambodia's military capacity for the foreseeable future. So I don't really think they would want to actually do any kind of invasion other than like immediately cross border stuff, because that's just like this is mountainous jungle. And I mean, like Vietnam was already nasty when everyone and their brother's dog did Vietnam over the decades. And most of that took place just in like the lowland, kind of more forgiving, flat terrain jungle. But once you get up here, it's like mountain jungles. So doing an invasion like that is kind of not really going to work out anyways. So I would assume if they are actually doing something, that they're just going to do like a bunch of incursions and airstrikes and stuff. But we'll wait to see if that even materializes in the first place. However, it is something that is there that might be coming, so just keep an eye out for that. And in the same general area of the world, we had up around here in the Aceh portion of Sumatra, Indonesia, there have been multi-week long rains going on that have caused massive flooding and mudslides that over just last few days have killed about 1,000 people, not disrupting stuff on like a logistical or material end on a grander scale, but is killing quite a few people there, or at least 1,000 is the estimate as of the current moment. It's probably decently higher, but the displaced persons number is now up to 300,000. Oh man, you can see here you can see the difference. See the sudden blurry patches versus the much more well-defined areas. You can see the difference between where seafloor expedition surveying has taken place and where it hasn't. Okay, that should be enough time for enough people relatively to be here. Five. Yeah, that's on live. Is this on live chat? Live chat. Okay. All right, that's just enough. So now we're going to get started with stuff. First, we're going to go over here to prices. And we have silver continuing its long-awaited correctional upward surge. It is now up to $63 per ounce, which is, I mean, it can vary on vibes and calculations, but is higher than it needs to be, but is finally like in more of a place where it belongs than where it was previously. Because remember, global silver production from silver mines peaked back in 2015. Hold on. Let's go over here. And I'll show you for anyone who's not aware, anyone who might be new to the channel. You go under any video, apart from the YouTube super buttons and the PayPal Patreon links, there's another link here to a Google Drive folder that I maintain with all different subfolders containing hundreds of different graphs of all different types. Some of those include global production or mine output rates of various different metals and minerals. All this is free to access. It's not behind a paywall. Technically, it just has like a side optional pay button. But silver peaked in 2015 and has declined, had a brief short recovery, but has been going back down since then. And it's down by over 10%. It's somewhere around like, I think 12 or 13% down from its 2015 high. Whereas global silver demand did not stop except for the brief pause in 2020, but has instead kept on going. So obviously, as you can infer from, basic, just basic understanding of reality, there's kind of a bit of a gap there that has been getting larger. And a lot of that ballooning has been first from solar panels primarily, but now from the upsurge in computer production for all the AI crap and data centers that are being built that are going to be abandoned and doing nothing in a few years because It's not actually really generating profit. So the only reason it's still being pursued is effectively sunk cost fallacy because the people who make decisions in companies effectively are just like they have done with past bubbles, going to ride the investor high and wait until the moment where the bubble's about to pop, and then they're just going to pull all the money they made and depart the company in an early retirement and just leave everybody else and the entire world's infrastructure at large to pick up the bill for it. But this has been pointed out to everyone, to society as a whole, and no one seems to want to like physically do anything about it. We're just going to let it happen. But anyways, also now there's increasing silver demand as well from here. I'll draw like a thing. So like the big balloon in silver demand has primarily been solar panels. But then also you have the increase in electronics boom from all the AI crap that's stacking on. And now just a little bit here from EVs, electric vehicles, because as it was being heralded as this amazing improvement a few years ago, we found a new battery design to make them more efficient. However, that design makes them more efficient by adding a notable amount of silver into the battery's chemistry. So another it's another version of I don't know, I'm going to invent a nonsensical stupid analogy. Like me and my addiction to Rittersport German chocolate, it's like I found 5 bars of free Rittersport, but at the same time, getting them required me to like step on a rusty nail with a bare foot or something. So that's ongoing, and because of the surplus of silver, because mine production outputs over previous decades was higher than global demand, we do we had above ground inventories built up over time to a grand total at one point of about 2 billion ounces. However, that has gone down, or actually, hold on, be more like slowed down, then gradually started going down, and now has turned down pretty quick. And now, as of the start of this year, or sorry, the start of next year, since we're about to hit that, has gotten down to between only 800 and 900 million ounces. And next year, at the current usage rate and decline in silver output from mines, is expected to be drawn down by another 250 million ounces, which will put it down between 550 and 650. So the market for the longest time was just hovering around $20 per ounce silver prices, it really ignoring the growing deficit and the rapid drawdown of global inventories until this year, where it finally, at first slowly, but now much more quickly, has uplunged to where it is now, where you guys saw it previously on screen a few minutes ago at $63 per ounce, which is higher than the inflation adjusted 2011 price record, which was like 40 something dollars, 44, 46, but inflation adjusted to current dollars would come out to like 61. So it's higher value wise than the 2011 price now and is higher nominally on paper than the 1979 or 1980 price record, the highest one ever, uh, or highest one ever when adjusted for inflation, but is not value wise, inflation adjusted wise, higher than that because that one would come out to something like 150 an ounce, but may get there. It is almost certainly going to at least touch triple digits a few times this decade before in the 2030s, hopefully, the price surges will drive enough of mining expansion and enhanced recovery mining operations to get some more out, or maybe we'll societally grow brains and stop chasing the sunk cost fallacy solar craze. But that part's a little bit less likely, so we'll have to wait and see. However, Okay, oops. Whoa, that's too far. Too far. That's just enough. Let's see. Do we get anything from anybody? Thank you. What do you mean? What do I think about them? I mean, they're appropriate for the current supply situation. The supply situation is, being artificially manipulated because of the OPEC and associated club stuff, which is why regarding like global production peaks, you kind of have to refer to it in terms of capacity, since with mining or with almost everything else, like even with natural gas and stuff, the basically the those industries, every other industry just chases higher and higher production constantly to fight off otherwise declines or to chase constantly growing demand. Oil's been a slightly unique in the fact of the existence of OPEC, who at any given time can just like cut, 5 million barrels per day off the market or surge 10 million onto the market out of nowhere. So that leaves, kind of some obscurity unless you do the math, which I do every now and then. I do like a full global reassessment. If it were not for the OPEC production upsurge, then global production growth at the moment would be really slow and would be primarily coming from Guyana, Brazil, and slower portions from Argentina and Canada, as the US is peaking. The US has reached the peak of its shale production. Shale is actually starting to go down at the moment, but we have the situation where we have a number of large fields out in the Gulf of Mexico and back up home in Alaska, where I am from, Fairbanks, where I would love to return to, but that would require an income of at least $700 a month, which I presently do not make. Because I got 2020 when 2020 happened, and I lost my job up there, so I had to move back down here with my parents in the lower 48 US, which is a abysmal landscape, uh, both landscape wise, politically, societally, uh, cleanliness factor wise, in all regards to live in compared to back up home. But that's beside the point. So shale wise or production wise, US got up to 13.6 and was declining down, had gotten down to around 13.3. And so shale production is still going down, but a number, we're now seeing a pattern emerge that I predicted, I guess you could call it, because it was kind of obvious. We have large fields here and there, like one that came online in the Gulf was 120,000 barrels a day. Another one was 60. Another one was 80. There's a 80,000 barrel per day project back up home that just came online recently. There's another 60,000 barrel per day one that's coming online. So we're getting a pattern on that decline of sudden upward spikes from which the decline resumes when one of these fields starts up. And then another sudden upward spike, and then the decline kept going. Like this happened, got back up to 13.6 after that and kept going back down, was at like 13.5, and then, jumped up again, declined a little, jumped up again with the one back up home starting up to over 13.8 at the highest point, a million barrels per day, from which it then US production continued its decline, which is being primarily driven by shale now hitting its, passing over the arc of the very steep incline that it went up. And also, there is still, conventional crude fields declining, but those make up a much less portion of the US's remaining production. Like there's about 600,000 barrels per day of onshore crude conventional oil production remaining in Texas. There's like 70,000 barrels remaining in Kansas that's on its way down. There's still 100,000 barrels per day of conventional oil production declining in North Dakota. And there's, I think, like 200,000 barrels per day of conventional production in Oklahoma still that is, again, on its way down. And 100,000 of conventional production in Louisiana, and about 250 over there in California. Conventional production, the only place that's going upwards in the US conventionally, because a lot of it was not previously touched, is back up home in Alaska, where we had gone from 2 million all the way down to only 400,000 and stalled there for a number of years as stuff started getting brought online. And now we started going back up. And just earlier this year, around the halfway point of the year, for the first time in like 5 years, we went back over 500,000, and we're at something like 520 at the moment, back up in Alaska. But, anyways, after getting over 13.8, US production resumed the decline that has been ongoing, primarily from shale beginning its fall of about 15,000 barrels per day per month, which I said in the most recent oil production levels update video. That works out to rounded down about 15,000 barrels per day per week, which works out to rounded down about 50K for safety's sake per month, which then works out to about 600, or if you want to again round down for benefit of the doubt, 500,000 barrels per day down per year, which is 4 to 5% annual decline rate that the U.S. that will be ongoing for the U.S. outside of, again, every few months, however many months are in between each one, a random upward spike from another offshore or Arctic field suddenly activating and jumping production up by like 100,000 barrels per day, from which it then resumes declining, obviously. Uh, that was a that was a completely off. I don't even know how I got to U.S. production off of what I was previously saying. I'd been saying that upward climb from the only upward climb legitimately going on for global oil production, when you exclude correctly the artificial OPEC production surge, is primarily from Brazil and Guyana, and then with smaller bits from Canada and Argentina. But anyways, yeah, for the supply situation at the moment, however artificially boosted it is, oil prices are technically correct. They are where they should be. However, this is going to bite us in terms of financing for, you know, uh, further oil and gas exploration that would, lessen the oncoming global decline, as operations have been halted. And the U.S. shale would not actually even be going down this fast if if the prices were still up at like 70 where they previously were. That was enough for the companies to still continue drilling new shale wells, predominantly in the Permian Basin, at 20% higher of a pace than they currently are. So if they were still doing that, then the decline primarily from shale in U.S. production would probably only be like maybe 5 or 10,000 barrels per day per week, and higher prices than that would obviously encourage them to frack even harder, which would lessen it slightly, but would steepen the curve when they reach an inevitable point of no return. And also, you got Russia's production falling off massively, and now taking a major hit suddenly in the Caspian Sea. They just lost 120,000 barrels per day of offshore production in the Caspian, as Ukraine has now officially, with the long range Flamingo cruise missile, have the capability of reaching Russia's oil fields for a number of months, most of which are actually out, over, and up here nowadays. But they do have some stuff in the Caspian. And so I assume this was just a test hit. See how much AD, how much air defense thrust. Why am I upping my volume? Oh, it's because the heater turned on behind me, but I forgot the mic doesn't really pick that up. Just to, double check, see if Russia is competent enough to like protect its oil and gas assets, because it certainly hasn't protected its refineries or export terminals or capital city or anything else for that matter. And nope, missiles got through perfectly fine, hit that platform. That's 120,000 barrels per day of production offline. So that would put Russia down to around 8.4, most likely at the moment. But where was I going originally? Oh, yes. Sorry. Originally, I was about to speak about the U.S. and Venezuela. The U.S., as everyone knows, that every time, quick review every time, U.S. over the last 6 months has been gradually moving naval and air and other assets into the Caribbean for the upcoming military action against Venezuela that everybody knew was coming. Some people long before me have, said that this was coming for like the last 20 years. It was coming eventually. Everybody knew it. Everyone with a functioning brain knew that at least. Is what? Hold on a second. Is this thing saying? Is this thing trying to claim that this spot right here is 7,000 meters deep on a generic abyssal plain? What is this? Just a dead drop hole that the did that like alien drilling laser from the Alien versus Predator movie just like shoot a random beam down there? I have no idea what that's supposed to be. Anyways, let's recenter this. So U.S. has 12 warships, 10 Arleigh destroyers, and two Ticonderoga missile cruisers, one super carrier, the Gerald Ford, which is 70 to 80 combat jets, mixture of F-18s and F-35s, one regular carrier, because the U.S. has 11 super carriers and 9 regular carriers. The difference is a regular carrier uses oil-fired engines and only carries about 30 aircraft, sometimes 40 if they're a bigger one. This one is carrying primarily Viper attack helicopters and Marine Harrier jets, whereas a super carrier is nuclear powered and carries between 70 to 80 combat aircraft, or can at least. Sometimes they're not actually packed. Like apparently the French Charles de Gaulle super carrier is only usually carrying like 40 or 45 Rafales on it or something. But anyways, plus also, you clear that. Plus also a few squads F-35s and Reaper drones in Puerto Rico and unknown assets across the Caribbean islands that have been flown in on C-17s over the last few months. Not publicly said what they are, but most likely it's just air defense systems in case for those islands, in case Venezuela like decides to attack said islands as retaliation against the U.S. Since the U.S. fleet assets will be fine, they have their own AD systems. So likely the U.S. is just putting air defense systems on the immediate surrounding islands just in case Venezuela tries that as like a YOLO attempt to get out of the situation. But U.S. just seized somewhere off of Venezuela an oil tanker. Pretense is that it was heading for Iran, but in reality, that's just It's just made up like everything else. It's part of the needed pretense. In reality, not necessarily like sending oil tankers to Iran, which doesn't need to import oil, but that's beside the point. Uh, that itself is not the pretense. The pretense will be Venezuela actually like doing something, or the hope in the military command structure most likely is that uh, doing these increased things, first striking the random drug boats and stuff, and now seizing oil tankers, will eventually get Venezuela to like try to attack a U.S. Navy vessel, which then the U.S. can use as like the manufactured public consent for conducting actual on land incursion actions against Venezuela. But if Venezuela holds back and does nothing, then it is still going to happen. It just, from a public approval standpoint, or at least in the opinion of the current U.S. administration and the PR officials at the Pentagon, it would be better in a public approval from a public approval standpoint if Venezuela at least like attacks or tries to like attack a U.S. Navy vessel first. But one way or another, this is still happening anyways. It's that decision was most likely made years ago. And for anyone who's unaware of the reasoning, somehow it is about oil, but just like Iraq was, but not in the way people think, because people collectively are pretty dumb and usually say these like really weird 5 IQ sentences like, it's being done to get the oil, with this negative level of understanding. Like the oil is, I don't know, it's in one of those like money briefcases from a James Bond movie, and the military operation, the whole invasion is being done so that like a spec ops team can bust into like a bunker and grab the briefcase where all the oil is. Uh, just like with Iraq, the situation with Venezuela, for different reasons, although similar reasons, kind of, is that there is quite a bit there. And Venezuela is capable of quite a higher level of oil production output than it has been doing. And even that it did at its past levels of like 3 million barrels per day. In reality, it's capable of somewhere between 5 to 6 million barrels per day and could maintain that output for decades to come. However, even with Chevron's help, they have only managed to recover their production back up to about 1.1 million over the course of almost 6 years now. So that has been deemed too slow, and the regime in Caracas has been deemed a liability because they could start acting erratically again and result in this all falling apart. So it was determined behind whatever closed doors that Maduro has to go, the whole regime itself has to go, and Venezuela has to be open to outside oil industry, which can rapidly, not instantaneously, but much more rapidly get their production at a minimum back up to 3 million barrels per day, and or start, developing the massive Orinoco reserves and start steam lifting those and get that up to a full 5 to 6 million barrels per day. And as for why now in particular, why late 2025 or sometime in 2026, the reason for that, for why it's being done now, is actually because this is coming soon. And we are getting directly involved in this. This will not be China versus Taiwan invasion. This will be China attempting to invade Taiwan, but not just China versus Taiwan. It will be China versus Taiwan and the US and Japan and South Korea and the Philippines and Australia and the UK and potentially a small naval detachment from India. They've slightly indicated they might want to jump in to test their naval combat capabilities, at least against like a peer opponent, and also to kind of just say they were there at the fall of China, since China's the only like real major threat to them and to like their geopolitical aims. I mean, Pakistan is technically, but Pakistan is a much weaker opponent that India could, uh, if it came down to it, India could take them. And Pakistan is also kind of already on the verge of like internally fracturing and falling apart. So India might also be kind of banking on that as well. And Pakistan's about to get into its own Afghanistan, in Afghanistan specifically. So they're also kind of sitting back, like hands up on the roller coaster, saying, by all means, if you want to have an Afghanistan, then go for it. So this is coming up, and the Pentagon likely just wants to get Venezuela out of the way quickly so that there will be no other tie downs when this starts. And we won't have to concern ourselves with anything other than Taiwan while Taiwan is happening. Okay, now over to Russia and Ukraine. Then that's probably going to be it, as everything else was pretty quiet. The Middle East was surprisingly quiet, which you can take as a good sign or a bad sign, either way. Have anything else? No? Nothing else. Okay. So, first off, as I said, Ukraine struck a Russian oil field production platform in the Caspian Sea. That is now down. That puts Russia down by 120,000 barrels per day, and could, if they can do it again, they can start striking other oil fields, especially larger onshore ones up there in Siberia. I would heavily advise them to. That would be the actual quickest way to bring this whole remaining charade crashing down on itself. Don't hold back. That's that's the actual key here. Uh, Other than that, that's the big thing that happened. There have been a number of other things. Russia lost a suddenly had an upsurge in the number of planes that it lost. Somewhere around here, it had an IL, or no, sorry, not an IL, an AN cargo aircraft, the one in the thumbnail that I used. One of its military cargo aircrafts crashed on landing, and plane is gone, crew is gone, whatever cargo was in it is gone. They also have lost two IL-76s in Sudan because Sudan's one of the few remaining overseas places where they're operating, as kind of lost Syria, kind of uh, have effectively lost Mali, as they've been getting reamed by the Tuareg rebels and the various Islamic insurgencies there. They don't really have anybody in Venezuela or Cuba anymore, and the only other place left that they're seriously operating is in Sudan, because Sudan doesn't have a real air force, especially not strategic cargo or airlifting aircraft. They rely on Russian contractors, quote unquote, but no one literally like sells out their actual strategic military aircraft to private companies. So just like Wagner was effectively just part of the Russian military in reality, said private Russian military cargo aircraft company is just part of the Russian Air Force. And Sudan relies on them to do like their military airlifting, and one of them crashed this week and a few weeks ago. One was shot down actually by the one of the sides in the Civil War. So yeah, those going on, and also apart from engine failures and stuff from all the deferred maintenance issues, I forgot where exactly in Russia it happened, but at one of the airfields, while the crew was getting into the cockpit of an Su-34, which is one kind of one of Russia's versions or answers to the F-15. The While the crew had like just gotten into the cockpit and they were like getting ready to pull out of the hangar and take off, while in the hangar, the ejection system just triggered on its own apparently and launched both pilots through the canopy. They smashed their skulls into the ceiling of the hangar. They're dead. They're dead. The you know rocket blast and stuff from the ejection system kind of fries the cockpit, kind of destroys the cockpit. So the plane is also gone. And then debris from the hangar roof kind of then also fell on the plane too. And over here where the current line is, and then it comes back here like this. So around here, I think, around here, Russia, for the most part, as you know, has been primarily just doing infantry meet waves and motorbike, like dirt bike, motocross, infantry, I don't know, jousting night waves. They did gather up enough like armored vehicles and a few tanks and stuff to do a vehicle attack, an actual like armored column recently, but it did not go over well. Everything just got destroyed. I can't play these videos again because they show dead bodies and the moments of like individual moments of people's deaths, which is against both my moral standpoint and also against YouTube's TOS terms of service technically. Big multi-million subscriber YouTubers can show whatever they want and get away with it. It doesn't actually matter for them. It would matter for me, however. And also, where's the yeah, if you want to see what the result of these where was that? Okay, I've forgotten what the thumbnail itself even looked like, so I'm not sure what I would see or how to pick it out, or I might have just not bookmarked it to begin with, which would be probably what happens and would just be me being stupid. Oh, yeah, in the meantime, before I go looking for that, some more economic stuff. Truck sales in particular have collapsed in Russia since everything started, down by half. And now the Russian truck manufacturing industry is being slowly erased and being overcome and replaced by Chinese vehicles. So, for continuation in more ways than one, for the sake of continuing such, this whole operation, Russia is continually sacrificing itself to China. Let me see. If I can find the thing I was thinking about, no, that's the armored vehicles one. I have a rough idea what it should look like. Was that it? No. Like I have a rough idea what the thumbnail looked like, or at least I think I roughly remember it now, so I'm hoping I can spot it. It might not have been on this channel or on this Twitter profile. It might have been on some other one. Come on. You gotta be in here somewhere. The airstrikes, fiber optic cables. All right, you got a few more seconds because I won't waste everyone's time endlessly scrolling looking for one really specific thing. And yeah, it's looking like I can't find it, and or it might have been further back than I thought it was. Okay, it's probably further back than I thought it was, unless, hold on, might have been on special carousel on cat. Yeah, it might have been on this one. Hold on. How far back is this? One day? How far do I have to scroll before I get back to days? Okay, not too far. Was it on this one? I thought it was only a few days ago. So in theory, it shouldn't be that far back. Come on. Okay, back to December 3rd. No. All right, this is all right, I forgot where it was, but anyways, it was gonna be for those like anyone who wants to see the results of the endless Donbass meat waves. There was, I was gonna, as occasionally usual, offer up, here's a few things you can see if you want to see drone flyovers and see like actual almost fallen in perfect rows, rows and rows of bodies across burnt cornfields. If you want to see it for yourself, it's out there. Let's see, what else did we have? Car sales in Russia are now down to only 40,000 I believe that's per month, whereas pre-war it was about 100,000. And they're now at a point where Chinese car brands are soon going to overtake those as well. And one more oil tanker was struck by Ukrainian water drones in the Black Sea. That's a total of either 4 or 5 taken out of commission in the last 2 weeks, plus 3 more that were taken out earlier in autumn in the Mediterranean. Although that was not officially Ukraine, that was you know Ukraine never claimed responsibility, and Russia insisted that it was just accidents. But over the summer and fall, 3 Russian oil tankers in the Mediterranean had just spontaneous, unexplained explosions and sank. So, you know, maybe they were just carrying antimatter for all I know, and its magnetic containment fields failed or something, and it came in contact with the regular matter of the ship's hull. And also, apart from primarily Russia exported most of its natural gas through on land pipelines, however, some for customers it does not have pipeline capacity to yet, like China. Some it does export through a few LNG pipeline or LNG terminals on LNG tankers. Uh, some bit over in the east and some down here in the Black Sea. Also, their their Black Sea LNG terminal got struck as well, and also somewhere around here, one of their nitrogen fixation plants for the energy intensive and expensive both to do and to build process industrially of actually extracting nitrogen from the atmosphere and breaking those molecules to attach them to other molecules to make nitrogenous fertilizer, one of the three primary fertilizer components that allows us in modern agriculture to grow so much food so quickly. One of those got struck as well. So stack that on to the lower yields issue that Russian agriculture already started having this year. Not by huge amounts, but it was looking like a 20% drop. So that's not like a problem for Russia internally, but that is a revenue problem, both from the crops themselves and from the nitrogenous fertilizer or fixed to nitrogen because they also export a lot of that. Okay, I think that's it. At least I don't see anything else on the list. And here, let me try to run my brain at full power, see if I can think of anything I forgot. I'm not getting anything. No, no, okay, I don't think there was anything else I wanted to hit. Uh but oh yeah, anyways, mentioned it in the oil production levels update video. But minor thing, Turkmenistan is on the verge of becoming a net oil importer or losing their exporter status as their production levels, they'll do a retroactive real numbers correction eventually. They've been just reporting 191 over and over again for like 2 years. So in reality, their production is likely now down into the 180,000s somewhere, while their domestic consumption has almost reached that. It's close to 170. So random final sign off event or news blip. Turkmenistan is about to exit the field of oil exporters. So net oil exporters country list will grow one shorter yet again. Although uh, it's not going to remain empty for long as they're they're going to they'll probably just be replaced by Cote d'Ivoire as once, or actually, no, sorry, technically they'll just be evening things out as Cote d'Ivoire already has exceeded its own domestic consumption levels in terms of its production. The next one should be Cameroon is down to like 50,000 barrels per day of production, and their domestic consumption is heading towards 40. So they're going to be dropping off that map soon. That's going to be it for this one. I'll be doing more of the regular monthly videos in the coming days, obviously. Also be doing some additional streams this month, probably. Some more specific or specialized thematic streams about specific things, like uh, a revamp of that one I did like 3 or 4 years ago. That was like how what you can do specifically, or how you how you can save the world or contribute your 0.10 to the 10th power 1 percentile towards doing such, along with a few others, like reinventing the civilizational rating scale, since the Kardashev scale is kind of dumb and pointless and is, entirely based on how much energy a civilization is using because reasons. Like, okay, so how does that even matter? Like, using it for what, though? Using it for the sake of using it? You should measure a civilization by like what it's actually doing, what it's actually achieved. Because like you can use all the energy of the sun, you can build a Dyson sphere around the sun all you want and just use it to power an AI slop farm, AI YouTube slop farm generator, and just infinitely generate like the, I don't know, deep fake Taylor Swift porn like everyone seems to be doing for some reason. But that's I wouldn't really call that worthy of like being rated as a high tier civilization. But that's going to be it. I will see you guys around next time. Unless anybody has anything else, I'll wait a few seconds for the stream delay. I think it's like 20 to 30. My measurement usually has been 20 to 30 seconds before, from when I actually say something into the mic versus when you guys actually hear it. Except for some people like Josh, who was not here today, but he's alive. Don't worry. Some people like Josh have, mega gamer internet and only have like a 5 second delay between when I say something and when they hear me. But normal human beings have apparently like a 20-second delay on their end. All right, we get anything else? Looks like no. All right, that's it then. I will see you guys around next time.